Abdiaziz Hashim, the sign language interpreter at the bottom end of the screen, is Anne Wangeshi. This morning we'll be focusing on the Public Benefits Organization Regulatory Authority on the first hour, and in the second hour, as always, we'll be focusing on the state of the nation. We'll be talking about the IBC reconstitution question, as well as the bursary dilemma that faces the county heads. Yesterday they issued a statement at Delta House, and finally, given that Trump has been sworn in as the 47th U.S. president, what will it mean for the African continent? How will that relation pan out? Of course, with the continent, you do remember our very own president visited the state just last year during the former head of state of the United States, that is Joe Biden, when he's presiding over the great American country. That will be focusing on the second hour, but of course, we're keeping an eye on various events that are still ongoing in various parts of the country, including the president's visit to the western part of the country. Yesterday, you saw him in Mumias, Kakamega County, talking about reviving the sugar sector. And of course, we'll be informed by our very own Simon Ochola any moment from now on what the president's diary looks like today, and also other events that are here within the capital, including the National Cohesion and Integration Commission will be issuing a presser at exactly 10:30 at Brigham Tower. Also, we'll be linking up with our reporter who will be assigned in that particular area. And of course, talk to us on our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1 and at Abdiaziz Hashim 2. Let me get to introduce my guest this morning on the first hour. He is none other than Mr. Lyndon Nicholas Otieno. He is the Acting Director General of Public Benefit Organization Regulatory Authority. Mr. Nicholas, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Maybe just give our viewers, in terms of what PBO contributes to the sector of the economy, first of all.
PBOs are the other arm that assists this country in service delivery. There are parts that services are not easy to access or to get, and it is these PBOs that get into those areas and offer these services. If you talk to a lot of people from these remote areas, you will hear stories such as the first entity that we knew as a people are these PBOs. When they brought us either education, they brought us water, brought us, various services. So contribution of PBOs in this country is immense. It's immeasurable. But as a government, we have to get data. We have to quantify the contribution, because that way it helps us in planning the country moving forward. So from time to time, we carry out annual sector report that entails synthesizing data that has come in. For example, PBOs depend on funding. Most of them depend on funding because some of them have managed sustainability, but most of them are still working on sustainability mechanisms. So because they are depending on funding, there's a lot of funding that comes into the country, courtesy of these PBOs. And as a government, we have to monitor that funding and make sure that we know exactly what has come in. So annually, we organize a sector report where we get the data on how many are registered, how many are deregistered, how many are offering what service where, and how much came in from where. So in the last sector report, we got about 192 billion in terms of monetary assistance that came into the country, courtesy of these PBOs. The figure could be much higher because we did not manage to net everyone, but we are working on making sure that the next annual report nets at least everyone that is registered and is operational and is receiving funding. Yeah.
And of course, to the viewer out there, in terms of what the regulatory authority oversees, is it the national non-governmental organization? What are these exactly sectors that PBO is looking into? maybe to clarify for our viewers?
Two things I would like to clarify. One, previously, under the NGOs Coordination Act, the mandate was confined to non-governmental organizations, as they were previously known. However, under the PBOs Act, the mandate has expanded to civil society organizations with a bias or a specification as to those who deal in public benefit or those who engage in charitable acts. And if you look at the history is a bit warped, because you will find some of these public benefit organizations registered under companies limited by guarantee. Or you'll find others registered under societies or CBOs or even trusts. So it is our job to map that out and figure out where they are, because the intention of Parliament when they instituted session of paper number 1 of 2006 was to create a one-stop shop for all public benefit organizations in this country. And our job is to make sure that that intention is achieved or realized. So we are going to, once we set up, once we are done with the transition, we are going to map out everyone where they are and ask them to come and register properly, and then moving forward get regulated under the PBOs Act. Yeah.
And let's say, for example, given that you've just told us in your annual report you received at least, the figure could be high, you've just stated,
yes,
192 billion in terms of monetary finances that you have received into the country. So how significant or how crucial is this particular sector to the country's economy?
The PBO sector is very crucial to the country's economy in terms of its contribution to the GDP. I think it could be contributing about 10% to the GDP, and for purposes of planning, when government is planning the national agenda, the PBO contribution should be part of that planning, because we can quantify what comes in. And it is more than 192 billion that we managed to capture in form of data. If you look at the sector, other than the monetary contribution, there is also job creation. Every time a PBO is registered, that is an opportunity for job creation for the people of Kenya. I think in this sector report, there's about 79,000 Kenyans that have been employed courtesy of PBOs. You can multiply that in terms of how many families behind that 79,000. And of course, there are services such as education, basic needs that manage to get to people in remote areas that previously could not be accessed, courtesy of these PBOs. So their contribution is immense.
And in terms of the mandate of the authority under the PBO Act of 2013, what is your mandate as an authority?
Our mandate is enumerated in section 42. It includes one, registration, regulation, advising the national government on contributions of PBOs, making sure that things like terrorism, financing, money laundering are dealt with, making sure that there is order in the charity or public sector through regulation, and of course working with other government agencies in making sure that this is achieved. So the biggest mandate is regulation of the public benefit organizations. Yeah.
And in terms of the Act, how far have you implemented it to ensure that the authority is working effectively?
The Act, when it was operationalized in May 2024, we had to do a lot of things because if you remember the history of the Act, it stayed on the shelves for slightly over a decade, about 11 years. And back in 2013, when it was passed into law, we had set up things that we needed to do. But then again, it went to the shelves. So when it came, we were in the middle of setting up a task force. Because if you look at the Act, there are a lot of contentious areas that have been suggested for amendments. So we were in the middle of setting up a task force to look into those contentious areas so that we could embark on the amendment journey, because everything has to be subjected to public participation before any legislation is passed. So when this was operationalized, we were in the middle of that, and we had to now retreat and say, okay, now we have this, let's put this on the back burner for now. Let's focus on this. So we have looked at the kind of budget that is required to implement this. We have reached out to development partners, like you said, UNDP, that can help us do this. We have carried out sensitization workshops around the country. We have basically informed the civil society sector on what is expected of them at the end of this exercise. We have also sensitized the government, the national government. We are yet to get to the county governments, but we have sensitized the national government on this new mandate and what is expected of them from us. Now, the part that is left is harmonizing draft regulations, because back in the day, back in 2013, we had 2 draft regulations, one from the civil society, one from the government side. So what is left is harmonizing those 2 drafts, then subjecting the same to public participation. Once that is done, it goes to Parliament for concurrence, then it is gazetted, then that process will have ended. So what will be left after that is now transiting those who are already in our register from NGOs to PBOs. Then the next job after that will be informing those who are not registered with us but are registered with other regimes that now they need to come and register with us. But the Act has a provision. If it does get amended, well and good. If it's not amended, Section 7. Section 7 provides that as long as you are engaging in public benefit, it does not matter where you are registered. If you are registered under companies, well and good, but then you still have to get into an arrangement with the authority, get public benefit status bestowed upon you, then you can access certain things from government. So either way, the authority will regulate public benefit organizations from where they are registered or under this Act, if they come and get registered under this Act. And this is going to include organizations that have been engaging in charity without registration, like churches, for example. Churches engage in charity in the form of schools, in the form of, these activities that are good for the youth and so on. So organizations such as churches, institutions such as banks, or these telecommunication companies that engage in charity as CSR, we are going to have to ask them to come and officially register. Because, again, it's going to be an offense to operate a charitable organization without registration.
Even for the churches?
Even for the churches, yes.
When they engage in community social responsibility?
Those have to be registered and regulated, because as things stand now, who can tell what actually goes on in those social responsibility entities? Who can tell? No one. But when they are registered and regulated, it will be easy to know that this much has come from wherever it has come, which is legit, and it is being used for this purpose, and this is how it is being dispensed. And these people are actually getting what is meant for them. Yeah, so...
The reason I'm asking that, you even surprised me, because even the government does not tax what the churches even collect. You do remember the controversial bill that was brought by Tana River Senator Danson Mugatana in terms of regulating the churches. So are you saying that whatever the churches will be doing in terms of corporate social responsibility, in terms of the funds they give, so you're going to oversight those funds and you'll ask them where it came from and what are you doing with them?
Now, our mandate is to regulate public benefit. What the churches are doing, does it fall under public benefit? If it does, then it is our mandate, we will regulate it. We are not going to interfere with church, the faith, the churches as properly constituted. But what they are doing as corporate social responsibility, that is in the realm of public benefit, that we are going to want to know. We are going to ask them to register. We are going to ask them to be regulated because, again, we are not talking about issues of taxes. We are not talking about issues of regulating churches. No. I want this to be very clear. I don't want to start a fight with the clergies, but when it is about public benefit, that is our mandate and we will deal with it. So different denominations deal with charity in whichever way they can. They have schools, they have centers, they assist orphans, orphanages and so on. What we are saying is, this is public benefit. It is a service that is being offered to the people. We want to see how it is being offered as a government. We want to make sure that it is being done the right way. We want to capture what is coming in because it is crucial to the national agenda, to the GDP, to the government. Yeah.
So once they register, explain to us, once they register, there is a fee they're expected to pay out of the public benefit they are doing.
Registration fees is paid everywhere. There is no one who is given free registration in this country. So everyone is expected to pay registration fee. Once they pay registration fees, then they get registered, they receive their certification, they can run their affairs as long as now they file in accordance with the provision of the law.
They file with KRA or?
No. They file annual returns.
Okay.
Annual returns is, for us, a tool, a source of data, where we will see we are so and so, this is our mission, these are our members or officials, this is where our officers are headquartered, this is the service we are offering the people of Kenya, this is where we are getting funds. Don't forget that Kenya has been grey listed. And one of the areas that we must really work hard to make sure that Kenya gets out of that list is this public benefit space. Yeah.
And of course we'll be getting to that because you've just surprised me. I didn't know that you will also be oversighting the public good that the churches will be doing. Is this even extended?
What is the difference? Let me ask you. What is the difference between the public good that a group of individuals are doing to that that the churches are doing? What is the difference?
None.
So why should this group get registered and this one not? Tell me. If both of them are doing public good and you register this one, why should you not register this other one?
Okay. And then the other question will be, and I'm sure many of our viewers who will be watching will be asking this, because let's say they have registered, they have paid their fee. You said they will pay, they will file an annual
annual returns.
Annual returns by the end of the year. So in this annual return by the year, as an authority, will you be the ones who will be looking into the funds of how much they have received, how much they have spent, in which areas they have spent, or you'll have to seek the services of the Kenya Revenue Authority?
No, we will not seek the services of Kenya Revenue Authority, but we work closely with Central Bank.
Okay.
All monies that come in to this country, they must pass through the Central Bank. So together with other banks, we are able to determine that this much has come to this organization. Remember, banks are also entities in this fight for terrorism financing and money laundering, and are required to report suspicious transactions. So where a suspicious transaction is reported, then FRC comes in, right? But as an entity, when we look at the annual returns that have been filed, we are able to see from the way the finances have been expended, received and expended, we are able to see whether there's something suspicious in that or not. If we think there's something that is worth looking at, then we have a team of forensic auditors that then can go in and carry out an investigation and inform us that this needs to be looked at further, or this is okay, there's nothing here.
So you work closely with the Central Bank of Kenya?
Not just Central Bank, we work with all the banks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of course, but the main nerve will be the CBK, given that it regulates even all the banks in the country. Now let's move on to the the non-governmental organizations. You do remember what was happening last year. Most of them were being urged by none other than the Foreign Ministry to ensure that they are registered with you, so that at the end of the day they can also be regulated. So first things first, under your regulatory authority, how many NGOs are in the country, roughly, if you have the statistics?
As of today, we have about 15,000 registered NGOs, but the number is growing every day because every day someone is registering. So at the end of the year, when we take stock, then we are able to tell this year we have had this much. But because of this PBO Act and the expanded mandate, we are looking at about 100,000 organizations, not just NGOs, but all these other categories that are dealing in public benefit space. Yeah.
And of course, given that you have given us also the figure, in terms of the registration of this non-governmental organization which have been operating in the country, we saw last year the government, of course, coming out clearly telling them to register with the government so that they can be oversighted at the end of the day. But the main query will be, where was PBO before even the government told these NGOs to register?
PBO has been here. It's carrying out that registration mandate every single day. It's carrying out a regulation mandate every single day. By government telling them to register does not mean that the PBO is not there, the authority is not there, or the authority is not discharging its mandate. Even in the Bible they say that, remind them even if they know. So that was just a reminder that was being given to people that probably had not sought registration to come get registered, because at the end of the day, regulation is good for everyone. Imagine a PBO sector that is not regulated. What do you think would happen? Even the donors that fund these organizations, they want to fund a properly instituted and well-regulated organization so that they know that their money is safe, that the money that they give to go and feed a child in Turkana actually gets to that child. Because if it is not regulated, how will we know that the money that was given for that child in Turkana got there? So regulation is not a bad thing at all. And upstanding donors want to fund regulated entities. And let me just also say this. As an institution, we have started working with donors very closely. And one of the things we are telling donors is that they cannot fund organizations without checking with the authority or the regulator, because they may not know what the regulator is doing. Maybe an organization has been deregistered. Maybe an organization is under investigation for fraud. Maybe an organization has been flagged for terrorism financing. But when they fund it without checking with the regulator, then they lose their money. Then they come back to the regulator and say, look, we gave these people this money and they've stolen it, or ABCD is happening, or the people of Kenya have been harmed in one way or another. Then we are now we begin running around trying to repair something that we could have prevented. It is easier to prevent than to chase the repair process. Yeah.
And of course, you witnessed what happened last year in the country. Even the head of state was accusing foreign entities that are financing some of these non-governmental organizations, civil societies within the country. The question will be, what measures has PBO put in place to ensure if allegedly that was happening, not to happen again, seeing at the end of the day, those finances are used to harm Kenyans?
We have a law that Parliament has given us to work with. That law gives us provisions that takes care of all those spheres. For example, if there's an entity that is suspected to be harmful to the people of Kenya, it is not just the authority that will come in. Even the DCI will come in. Even the NIS will come in. Even KRA will come in. So that it is looked at thoroughly and the people of Kenya are kept safe. The PBO Act, together with the regulations that we shall make for this purpose, is so comprehensive and provides for very minute things. For example, I'll give you an interesting example. Imagine an organization that is registered for national purposes and is occupied as members by a member of a family. That family member that is running that institution, what kind of accountability do you expect from that? For example, say the chairperson is a father, the treasurer is the mother, or the secretary is the mother, the son is the treasurer, the daughter, and so on and so forth. How accountable can that family be? Unless it's an institute family that is used to running businesses. But we cannot have every family being like that. So this law has provided for that, because we had a lot of problems in the past with similar outfits. So the PBO Act even says that not more than 2 relatives can be members of a governing body of a PBO. This same act says that investigations can be carried out on suspicion by the authority. If there is a complaint from the members of the public, the authority will carry out investigation. If there is something that the authority has noticed from, it will carry out investigations. And whatever it is will be nipped in the bud. As we speak, our PS, Dr. Raymond Omolo, has allowed us to have a multi-agency. That multi-agency will comprise ourselves as the host. We will have KRA, we will have immigration, we will have FRC, we will have these other registrars, and we will also have DCI. That kind of multi-agency will help us. Of course, also Ngao will be represented for purposes of administration, grassroots administration. Each entity that is represented in that multi-agency has a role to play. For instance, immigration issues work permits to foreigners that come into this country.
Yes.
They will have that role to play. KRA has tax exemption role to play when these organizations request for tax exemption. DCI has a role to play. For example, there's an organization called WYAP, Women and Youth something, that is currently being prosecuted. They were arrested late last year, I think in December, for fraudulent activities of obtaining goods through false pretenses and to the detriment of the people of Kenya. So DCI has a role to play. We as the regulator also have a role to play. So with this kind of multi-agency, the sector will be very safe, it will be very conducive, and it will be a very good place for donors and sector players. Yeah.
And maybe since last year till January of this year, roughly how many cases have you recorded of fraudulent activities that you have nipped in the bud at the end of the day, given that you're saying that you're working with a multi-agency team? So how many cases have you at least seen and it has been addressed, aside from the one you
There
just
are
mentioned?
cases that come up every day. Addressing a criminal case is not an event. It's a process. You have to get the offense. You have to investigate and make sure that it has been committed. Then you have to prosecute. Then the courts will convict. So it's a process. It is not something that you can conclude in a month or in a week. So if there is, like this one I'm referring to, it has been ongoing for over a year because this particular people have been very elusive. And the people of Kenya are also interesting. They get conned. They don't report. Even when they know or realize that they are being conned, they don't report. They will report after they have followed that money and followed and followed, and they see that they can't get it. Then they come and report, and by then it is almost too late. The people of Kenya have also been advised by ourselves in our website that do not transact with an organization without verifying with the authority. Transacting with an organization process. This particular about from different police stations, from different DCIOs, obtaining through false pretenses. These people even obtained from the donors. The donors also came and said, look, we have been obtained from, can you help? So that is when we now come in, because now we have received this information. Now we come in and look at it and invite DCI and other entities. We look at it, then we arrest, we prosecute. So as we speak, this particular gentleman and the other directors, they are undergoing that legal process. Yeah.
And given that you've said that this particular law is at least enlarging your mandate at the regulatory authority, you have even witnessed, given that you're saying many Kenyans are being conned, you have witnessed instances, especially in Eldoret, to just name part of the country, where people are being conned, promised that they will be taken abroad to do jobs or schools. Does that fall under your purview, or is it something you're also considering to be taken over by the regulatory authority?
No, this does not fall under our purview.
Okay.
We strictly regulate public benefit. This public benefit has to be, well, I do realize that taking children to school is a public benefit, but these entities are registered elsewhere.
Yes.
They are businesses that are out there for profit. We deal in the sector that is not for profit. So this is a different mandate, and I'm sure DCI is dealing with it accordingly.
Okay. Given that now you've just clearly also stated that that particular act is being enlarged once more, in terms of proliferation, in terms of financing, money laundering and terrorism activities in the country, what measures have been put in place, especially in that particular act, to ensure that that doesn't happen?
As we speak, we work very closely with FRC. And we are in the process of amending their act and also amending our act to complement each other on not-for-profit sector, so that this money laundering aspect and terrorism financing aspect is properly covered or catered for within the law. We are also working together by reporting to them any suspicious organizations that we know. And if you look at this report here, I'll leave you a copy of this. Okay. This is a report that we launched, the PS Dr. Raymond Omolo launched last year, I think in December. And it's one of those reports that is a culmination of many months of work that is going to ensure that Kenya as a country gets out of the grey list.
And of course, maybe the question will be, given that we found ourselves in that particular grey list, explain to Kenyans what being grey listed means and how we found ourselves there.
Being grey listed means that there are certain things that we are not doing right in terms of money laundering. There's the international treaties and agreements that have been made for each and every country to adhere to. And as a country, we have not done well in that sector. And as a result, we got grey listed. So the most important thing is to make sure that those things that we did not do well, we work on them, and one of them is this not-for-profit sector. Make sure that we put in place the right laws, make sure that we enforce those laws, and ensure that we are in line with international requirements so that we get out of this grey list. Yeah.
And in terms of the regulations that PBO has been making, what are some of the developments, what are some of the achievements you have made even in that particular report you've just cited in 2024?
In this report, the most important achievement so far is this amendment of the FRC Act and the PBO Act. This is what will ensure that we lay the ground and set the ball rolling. Number two, we are conducting workshops across the country for stakeholders, because you have to create awareness. If people are not aware, they may not realize that a crime is being committed. So we are creating awareness among our stakeholders and telling them that if you see something that is behaving in this manner, then you need to be aware that it could be this, so you need to report. That awareness creation is the most important bit in ensuring that we win this fight, and that we are doing.
And of course, given that you've recently even issued a list of non-compliant PPOs and threatened to deregister them, did they comply?
We did not threaten. We simply followed the law. The law provides that if you do not file your annual returns, then you should or can be deregistered. I'll tell you something. Filing annual returns costs 2,000 shillings. Failing to file annual returns costs 25,000 plus a penalty of 25,000 plus 2,000 filing fee. The filing fee has to be paid either way. So to forget to file returns will cost you 27,000 Kenya shillings. To remember to file returns will cost you 2,000 Kenya shillings. Which one is easier to do? Now, to remember, to forget to file for several years will be that 27,000 multiplied by the number of years. So I want to urge the people in the sector that they need to file returns when they fall due. It is easier, less messy, and it's good for them, for the country, and for the donors. So for these organizations that we issued with a notice of intention to cancel their certificates, we meant every word of that notice. The 15 days that is prescribed by the law have long lapsed. And now what we are doing is putting in place measures to make sure that they cease operations.
So in short, you've just issued those notices to the register?
You see, by dint of law, once you're issued with 15 days to comply with a certain directive and you fail to comply, at the lapse of those days, then that directive kicks in. So for good measure, and because we have to be fair in administrative actions, there's a law that ensures that we are going to issue individual notices to each and every organization that has not yet complied.
How many are they for the purpose of record? For
purpose of record, about 800 out of the 2,800 have complied. So about 2,100 have not complied. And we are going to issue individual notices. Once we do the individual notices, Section 63 allows us to move in to protect assets. Assets include cash at bank. Assets include motor vehicles. Assets include land, buildings, etc., computers.
So you will seize them?
So we are going to protect them as provided for under Section 63 of the PBS Act. So one of those things we are going to do is to ask the banks to disallow or any transactions in the accounts of organizations that have been deregistered, because once you get a notice and you don't comply, the next thing is cancellation of your registration certificate. So once your registration has been cancelled, what legal mandate do you have to even transact? What legal mandate do you have to continue offering services? So we are going to ask the banks to freeze those accounts on the basis that these organizations have ceased to exist. Then we are going to move into individual organizations and make sure that they cease operations until such time that they will think that it is important to come and comply. So we are going to work, that multi-agency that I was telling you about, together with the Ngao system, we are going to work together to make sure that this is realized. And the Ngao system extends to even mashinani, the grassroots. So they will tell us, the chiefs, the DOs, we are going to circulate the list of all non-compliant organizations or all organizations whose certificates have been cancelled. Once we circulate that list, our officers, together with the Ngao officers, will be paying visits to each and every organization and securing those organizations until such time that they will comply with this requirement. Then they can resume operations. So that is something that those who have not complied should know. It is the step that is currently underway. And there's still time For those who can come in right now before we get to them, we will assist them to comply. But those who will wait for us to get to them, we will close down their operations. Yeah.
But you clearly even stated that they still have a chance. So, for example, if they do not comply at the end of the day and they see boots on the ground, because you see, at the end of the day, we are Africans. Until we see actions, that is the time we react. So, even if they see those boots on the ground, will they still have a chance to continue their operations as and when they comply?
The boots will only go to the ground because they have refused to take this olive branch that we are extending to come and comply. So when they don't comply, first we close the bank accounts, zero transaction. Then now we move in to close the operations and close down those organizations. And remember, this same act provides that where an organization is deregistered, the assets of that organization can be given to another organization with similar objectives. So they stand to lose, because if they don't comply and they have been deregistered, then we take their assets and give to another organization that will use them for the good that they were meant to achieve. So we are extending an olive branch to these organizations that are yet, the 2,100 organizations that are yet to comply.
And of course, in terms of closing down some of the organizations that never complied over the years, roughly, do you have the number?
Over the years, dating back to 2010, we carried out some deregistrations, and we are quietly closing them down through our Ngao system. So once they have been identified, our officers move in, take inventory of assets. Then we either allow them to choose an institution that they want to pass the assets to, or we choose for them.
Or they have an option to choose, or you choose for them?
Yes. Then those assets are passed on to an institution with similar objectives. And that process has been ongoing for some time now. Given
that you were finalizing on this particular program, you clearly stated that PBO is closely even working with donors, and you're encouraging them to work with you. You've just witnessed what happened yesterday, where Donald Trump became the 47th United States of American president, and you do know majority of our donors, if not, come from America. So at the end of the day, we will be seeing at the end of the day PBO working closely with organizations from the United States in terms of the donations they give in the country.
Actually, majority of donors don't come from America. They come from Germany. You will see from this book that I'll give you.
Okay.
Majority of them come from Germany, but we've been working with America for 3 decades in this sector. In that 3 decades, Trump has been president before.
Yes.
And we worked with America at that time in terms of donors and funding. I don't think there's anything that should be different, even now that Trump has become president again. I don't see any reason why we should not work with them. Yes.
Maybe your final remarks as we wind up. What can we look forward to in terms of PBO, aside from the regulations that you're waiting to be, of course, officiated by none other than Parliament? What more can we expect from the regulatory authority?
We are trying to make the sector interesting. We are trying to make the sector become something that people are proud of. Of course, people are proud of it, but the work the sector is doing has not been properly highlighted. A lot of people don't know the good work that is going on in the sector. So we plan to amplify and highlight what is happening in the sector more often, so that people are aware. Because when people are aware, we curb a lot of things that could go wrong. if you followed activities in the sector, last year we introduced awards for NGOs or PBOs that are best performing. And this is a practice that we started last year. We want to continue it this year and many other years to come, so that we do not just regulate, but we also recognize outstanding PBOs and the work that they do and the contribution they make, so that we encourage those that are not doing very well, that there's something that comes out of doing good. So the sector should expect that. Other than that, we also have the NGOs Week. It is something that we do annually. I'm sure this time we will not call it NGOs Week, we will call it PBOs Week. And it offers PBOs an opportunity to come and showcase their activities to the people, the public, the other sector players, and even potential donors. So when we provide them with that space and they come and showcase what they're doing, it's good for them, it's good for the people of Kenya and the sector. We are also hopeful that we can organize through our PS and the Cabinet Secretary, we are hopeful that we can organize a roundtable meeting with the President, so that the sector can directly communicate with the President on the issues they feel are pressing, and the President can also directly communicate with the sector. So those are things, plans that have been put in place. We hope that as soon as possible that can be realized. We are also looking at a scenario where we can have other regulators other than the authority. Because we've had previously, last year we had South Africa, we had Zambia come to benchmark with us on issues public benefit. So we are looking at a scenario where we can gather all the regulators in Africa, in Nairobi, for a process or an exercise where we share notes on regulations and how they do it, and whether there's something that we can borrow, something that is new that we can do. So those are plans that we as the authority are thinking about and trying to put in place. So it should be an interesting year. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That is Mr. Lyndon Nicholas Otieno. He is the Acting Director General of Public Benefits Organization Regulatory Authority, just keeping us up to speed in terms of the various civil societies as well as non-governmental organizations, what is expected of them. And we've just heard in terms of compliance, they're very strict on that in terms of ensuring that the funds that are being used in the country are used appropriately, not just to harm Kenyans, but to, of course, for a good cause within the country. That marks the end of our first hour.